Hello and welcome to the Movie Podcast Television Extravaganza. My name is Daniel. I'm one of your hosts today, and joining alongside me are Anthony.
Hello.
And Shahbaz.
Hi, everybody.
Shay, I want to get you to start us off. How are you doing today?
You know, I'm doing great. I just got off work. It's super nice outside, so I kind of walked outside for a bit. I kind of soaked in some of that sun.
We should just start recording our episodes outside.
We should. There's a lot of great sounds and screaming happening outside, so I think that's always a good thing.
Oh yeah, I think the screaming, I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting you to say screaming, but the wind I think was going to be the big one for me.
Well, I'm saying the wind
is the biggest issue.
The wind was screaming.
Oh, the wind was howling.
Howling.
As they say.
I'm sorry. It's a regional thing.
I'm pretty sure
Yes.
like Shea Street is just a bunch of screamers, you know?
It's just a bunch of murderers.
It is called Screaming Avenue. Yes,
I live in a dangerous neighborhood. Okay.
Yeah, just a lot of screaming. I'm looking outside my window right now, and you guys know those like little motorized cars that I never had when growing up, but this was like it's like a little Jeep, and it's
right.
like there's these two kids are like racing theirs right now outside, and I'm like, I just want to go in my real car and then just like drift around them and be like, yeah, guys.
Oh, I thought you were going to run over them.
No, not today, not today.
I had a friend who lived, I guess if I were to probably describe it, it's probably like less than a kilometer away from me. So I would get in my Jeep as a kid and drive over to his place, and then I'd park.
Did the battery even last that long, man?
It did. It lasted just the amount of time you needed to get there, and then I'd plug it into charge there because he had one too. And then that's how we'd hang out. And I was like, I don't know, 8 years old, and I was like, yeah, I'd drive to my friend's house. Like it was pretty cool.
Yeah. What's great is that now you have an electric car in real life too, so like you've always been a fan of that rechargeable life.
No, I used to put gas in that one. It wasn't cheap as a kid.
Oh, that's not good, man. That's not good.
Growing up, I used to do a lot of street hockey. And I remember this kid, he would have a Jeep and he would like drive across the sidewalk, and most of us would just try to like hit his car with our tennis balls because we would play tennis with this little Jeep.
Is it like the little Jeep, right?
Yeah,
or a real Jeep.
He would go by and we would just like try to slap shot his Jeep as he
poor guy driving like 2 kilometers an hour in it too.
Yeah, we would just try to rifle it. It was just like, like when you go golfing, you try to hit the caddy guy, the guy who's picking up the balls.
Yes,
that would be it.
Yeah. It's funny. I remember like you just unlocked a memory too, because just this week I was thinking about like playing hockey outside. I'm like, man, I wish I had a net outside. And then here we are talking about street hockey. Yeah. But what is this episode all about? We've been teasing this episode for a couple weeks. This is a television extravaganza. This episode of the Movie Podcast, we're going to be talking about all of the shows that we wanted to talk about more, but we don't have the time to talk about on a main episode, and we haven't really done a dedicated review episode for. So today we're going to be talking about a bunch of different shows like Severance, The Dropout, Dopesick, Barry, anything and everything that comes to our mind. We may even touch on the newest episodes of Moon Knight. And we'll see where the wind takes us, where the screaming wind takes us this episode. But as always, you can catch a brand new episode of the Movie Podcast every single Monday. And watch out throughout the week for our review episodes, just like this one, on all the latest movies and series. Make sure to follow us at The Movie Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd. And don't forget to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, join our Discord, and write into the show at hello@TheMoviePodcast.ca. You can also follow us on youtube.com/TheMoviePodcast, and you can check out our show notes for all of those links and more. Some quick announcements before we dive deep into these wonderful shows. We do have merch available now. So if you want to help support the show, if you want to help us keep the lights and the mics on, you could head over to our show notes, click on our bonfire link, and you can see all the amazing t-shirts and the long sleeve tees that we have available. We love wearing them. They're very comfortable. They're great quality, and we're really thankful and happy to be working with our friends at Bonfire for some really cool merch. Finally, we've been wanting to do it for so long, and now it's there. Other thing, we have lots of reviews on the Movie Podcast feed right now that you can listen to. So if you want to hear our thoughts on The Offer, the new Paramount Plus show about the making of The Godfather, you can. Our review of The Duel, the Netflix, what's going on with Netflix right now, is our latest episode of the Movie Podcast. You could check that out, as well as some interviews from the Disney film Polar Bear. What else do we have going on? Ke Huy Quan from Everything Everywhere All at Once. There are so many things that you could listen to on the Movie Podcast feed, and we're not done, because this week this week coming, we will have our review out for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. That's going to be dropping on Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And, there may be some more happening this week. We may have some other stuff going on that we won't spoil.
You never know.
We'll see who comes through the portal. We'll see who comes through the portal.
It's a little strange out here.
Is that a line from the movie? Could you imagine Doctor Strange just like fighting somebody like, looks like things are getting a little strange here.
Boom, ba, 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 boom, boom, and his theme just kicks in. That's why we don't write the movies. That's why we don't write the movies.
Story credits, Anthony.
But let's start off with our first show. This is the show that I think has been taking the world by storm the last couple of weeks. Let's talk about Severance. This is an Apple TV Plus show. It is 10 episodes long. 9 episodes long. The finale of it just happened on April 8th. No, we missed the ending. So 9 episodes long. And I think with this show, what made the show so special for me is that it felt like it kind of just came out of nowhere. And I felt like a switch turned and everyone was talking about it for a week. And I feel like I keep seeing it on my feed. So what's Severance all about? Severance is a show that basically there is a medical procedure that's being able to, that a company has come up with where you're able to separate your non-work memories from your at-home memories. So basically, as you go into work, you'll become a new person and you'll only be able to, kind of focus on what's going on at work. You have no attachment that's going onto the world outside of what's going on in your workplace, which is a really interesting concept. And I think when we look at the world we are in right now, if we look at the last couple of years through the pandemic and how people have really started reevaluating what's important to them and work-life balance and working from home and taking your work home with them, I think the show really came out at the most perfect time. Anthony, I want you to start us off. What did you think of Severance?
Going into it, this was a while ago because I think I watched it back in February.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. We did have a little bit earlier for sure.
We did have a lot really early, and I was like, okay, let me start this episode because I think at that time there was only 3 episodes out, and I watched the 3 episodes on Apple TV Plus, and then I went into watching the rest that was given to us, and I just got hooked because it's a story that it kind of hits home, close to home type of thing. You work for a technology company or like a corporation like this, and there is a cult mentality that goes through such a big corporation, and you kind of gravitate to, oh, I felt like this when I used to work at a certain location or a certain place. What I loved about this story was that these characters that go to work and have no idea what's happening outside of work, and when they leave work they have no idea what's going inside of work, what's happening inside of their work, is that they created these 2 different personalities, almost like they were these Siamese twins that were split, and they all have different characteristics, different mannerisms, different thought processes, and you kind of get into this whole like, I feel for the work character and I feel for the at home character. Who do I root for? And you're trying to root for both. And especially that end episode where are we doing spoilers?
Yeah. So let's we'll put it on the line. Full on spoilers from this point out for all of the shows we're talking about. So this is after the fact, so we're good.
Yeah. So that end episode where they were able to trigger their work selves outside of work and actually see what it's like to be outside of their job placement, Lumen, was like just shocking. It was just like, oh my God, like it's like a baby looking for the first time, like hearing for the first time. These guys are like outside of their safe environment, in an environment where they have no idea what's happening.
What performances though? What really, from really Adam Scott, from the entire cast, from John Turturro, and oh my God, I'm blanking on her name. Is it Britt Lower? Who plays Heliar? Yeah, Heliar, Britt Lower. My goodness, like it's such a testament to their acting, Anthony. And I wanted to jump off from what you just said there. These are characters that we've seen outside of their workplace because we see their normal selves outside of work. Mm-hmm. But the fact that they're able just to pull off just from the looks on their faces and their mannerisms, it's not those same people. It's the Lumen the Lumen versions of them, and it's just such a testament to the acting of the show and the writing that you're able just to feel for the same person, but feel for them in completely different ways. And really, really special.
And you really want to know what they do outside of work, right? Like especially for Adam Scott's character, because it's centered around him, what he does outside of work because it focuses on him. But all the other characters, John Turturro, who seems like he was a war veteran and he was trying to find his soulmate, which Christopher Walken, who does a fantastic job in this show. Such a weird concept. I'm like, I don't know how these people work at a company like this, but Patricia Arquette, fantastic. Does a fantastic job being like, we'll say, the villain of this series. Yeah. But yeah, like it's the opening sequence is one that really grips you. You kind of like want to know more about what happens at this company. And again, that's another big thing we still don't know is what actually do they do there.
Yeah, we don't know.
It's like, and pushing it's these crazy boxes inside of a box, and they're like, "Oh, you'll figure it out when you see it." And
it's so bizarre. And I love how they use that. They use just like that in camera effect, that dolly zoom, like Jaws, and for so many different effects when they're in the elevator going up, and it's just things are. It looks like they're morphing, and it looks like they're looking a little different, and then the bell hits, and then there it goes. I also want to say shout out to just the editing of the show. There are some incredible moments of just cutting between different takes and locations. It's super phenomenal. Shay, jump in here. What are your thoughts on Severance?
I absolutely loved it. You know what? It gave me vibes of, when we used to watch network TV and you'd have shows like Lost, where every episode you're kind of tuning in to find out the mystery of what's going on. Whereas
appointment viewing.
Whereas in this show, it felt like, you were getting some answers, but you were such a fly on the wall of this whole experience that I was just shook when the last episode happened. It was brilliant. It was brilliant writing. The fact that they were able to write two narratives kind of going side by side, and alongside that, you just have a really unique plot. Like Anthony mentioned, a lot of people can relate to something like this. The world has changed dramatically, with the introduction of COVID and how people view their work. I don't know if this is like a very North American thing. I think when I talk to people from Europe a lot, they're not as diehard about their company as in North America. Whereas in North America, people usually put down their lives, to protect their company's secrets, or they're just like, I'm invested. I'm going to be here for every day. And I feel like in Europe, it's just kind of like, no, we kind of care about ourselves. And like, and I say that, sorry, not in a negative way. I mean in total positivity. Like, it's mental health first.
It is, yeah. It is. This job is a job. It is not who you are.
It's just it's a paycheck at the end of the day. Unless obviously you're doing something that's life changing for sure, but a lot of people normally are not. And in this show, it really kind of showed us that it I think for a lot of people, this show is going to be a big trigger. It's really going to either affect them or upset them in a certain way. But I think, if you can push past that element of it, there's a great story being written here about these characters that we're getting to see. You become extremely attached to them in ways that you didn't think was possible. You can be introduced to a character that's in the show for maybe a couple seconds or a couple minutes. By the end of the whole season, you're like, oh my God, that thing was so important. How come I didn't realize that? And that's why I loved the show. I immediately got everyone that I could to watch it as well, because it deserved to be talked about. It deserved to be discussed and dissected. And I think it's one of those shows that will continue to be dissected.
And I think this is what's special when you have a show that is being released week to week. You are gaining new viewers every single week, right? And now that it's all out, you have the opportunity to get people caught up to it. So when season 2 eventually does happen, because the show ends on a major cliffhanger of just, Mark going to the party, and like that final episode, I was like on the edge of my seat. When he calls Patricia Arquette the wrong name, when he calls her like a Miss Coble.
Miss Coble, yeah.
Right? And I was just like, oh my God. And then you see her face, and then like he's literally coming in like to the house at the end, and he finds out that his wife, Deech, who's played by Deech Lachman, that she's alive, and it's like, she's alive, and then it just ends, and I was just like, oh my God. Just like what you said, Shay, it reminds me a lot of network TV without all the filler episodes that we were used to get on network TV. It's not 24 episodes, it's 9 episodes of just really strong writing.
Right.
And like every episode matters. Every episode matters. Yeah. It's also interesting that this is being released on Apple TV Plus. Apple, again, killing it with their quality, with the bar of quality they're consistently hitting. But it's just funny because Apple's a technology company, and a lot of the show also felt like there were little parallels to Apple itself too. It's just the way the campus looked. Yeah, so it's just funny
how their work-life balance works and how their company works as a whole. So for people who have worked at Apple, I feel like they might feel a lot of this.
Yeah, it's definitely you see the parallel there.
Would you severance yourself if you had the ability, or if it was given to you the ability to severance
for the podcast? Yeah, like I would want my podcast personality, and then I would be somebody else outside. I don't want to remember doing this.
Interesting. Oh. Well, there's that answer.
How would we go to watch movies together and do all these amazing things when we're outside?
When I'd walk in the doors of a Cineplex, I'd be like, and then but then when I walk out, I'd be like, oh, I can't remember anything of what I watched. And then I'd sit down in front of my computer or at Daniel's house to record, and then, it would happen again. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, I'm back to being severed.
Interesting.
So you would do,
Anthony? Would you sever yourself?
No, man.
No, I would never do this. I would never sever myself.
I think the idea of like what worries me, and I think what the show does is I could have like a different personality inside me that wants to take over my world, my real world, and that's where I'm not. I don't like that.
You know yourself. That's why. And I think my other self 100% is going to try and outsmart my current self. And there's moments in the show where that happens with what's my gosh, Heliar, right? Where it's like she's trying to escape. Her severed self does not want to be in Lumen. And then she gets the video from herself saying, listen, you cut my fucking fingers and you're going to be like, have a fate worse than death. And you're just like, oh my God, this is myself telling me this. Yeah, it's crazy.
Heliar goes through traumatic experiences. I think there are 2 episodes where it's just pretty intense, and it's actually sad, and it's really, really sad because there's that episode where it happens, and the episode that picks up right after, it's just super sad.
I think
and the show's also. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry. I was just gonna say. I think that was kind of it for me there. Like that character was that I need to know what happens with this.
Yeah.
The show is created by Dan Erickson. I wanted to say shout out to Dan Erickson for creating the show, and it's also a bunch of episodes are directed by Ben Stiller, which is it's always interesting to see Ben Stiller and the director's chair as well too.
I wonder if he'll be back for the second season, because I think they're filming right now for the second season.
Listen, this show, I wonder how many episodes this show will go. How many seasons the show will go. I think you could, with a show like this, I don't think we're not in a place with television anymore that we need to have 7, 8, 9 seasons of a show. I think with a show like this, you could tell your story in 3, maybe 4 seasons.
I was going to say,
if you want, and then you go, and 3 seasons sounds great.
This show also gives me vibes of Lost.
Yes,
the Dharma Initiative. Remember that group that was on that island? Like, it just, because of the technology they use and just even the pacing and editing, it just feels like I don't want this. I hope they have like an idea of where the show ends, where they're not just writing every season as it goes. But yeah, I would say like 4 or 5 seasons. Don't go too crazy in terms of this leads to the higher ups, and there's but we're all dead anyway. So
don't go too big with it. I think this show works because it's isolated. The majority of the show happens within the walls of an office building.
Yeah,
and it's never boring.
The second that they kind of, if they were, and I hope they don't, they dive into the grand scheme of things, it ruins the mystery that kind of keeps us engulfed in the show. Sure, you can touch upon it, I think, and then you can kind of address some of it. But if you start to make this like a Hunger Games type thing, or we have to take down the big bad at the top, it might
who's behind the curtain.
Yeah, it might. Yeah, exactly like the Wizard of Oz. You don't need to go that far. Keep the story focused on these characters, and that's it.
Yeah,
it reminds me a lot too of my goodness. Oh yeah, sorry, A Quiet Place, right? Like when John Krasinski was working on A Quiet Place, he's like, I want to have a whole backstory in this, and I want to show this, and then he took it all out in the first movie, and you tell such a great story. Then I think now we're getting a spin-off of A Quiet Place. We're getting a game spin-off. We're getting a third film. It's like now you're almost revealing too much of the world and you're losing focus on what made this so special. So really looking forward to what Severance does with season 2. Any other final thoughts before we move on to our next show?
Watch it.
Watch it
for sure.
Yeah.
Watch it for sure. Shay, you've been a big champion of the Dropout here on the Movie Podcast. Tell us what the Dropout's out about and why is it special?
For sure. So the Dropout is all about Elizabeth Holmes, founder of Theranos, and really the rise and fall of, I guess you could say, the most prolific female tech CEO who was touted as the next Steve Jobs. And this show is about what? I think it's also 8 episodes or 9 episodes. Is it 8? 8 episodes. And it follows, Amanda Seyfried and Naveen Andrews, who are kind of playing this very toxic couple, as you could say, who are creating a company that basically allows you, with just a drop of blood, to be tested for hundreds of different diseases. Now, if that sounds impossible, it's because it is. The technology isn't there yet. People have been trying to do this, but it's just not possible. But through the sheer will and determination of her, she was able to convince so many people that this was possible without actually showing it. And I think this is a kind of a show that you can kind of break down even further and further. There's an episode, for example, that's titled Old White Men. And I think that was one of my favorite episodes because it dealt with exactly the problem in today's world. You have old white men who are running most of the world today, and all they need is just another white person or a white woman really to say, hey, this is what I got going on. Believe me, it works. And man, did she screw over a lot of people, and did she lose a lot of money.
So the Old White Men episode, that's with Walgreens, that's with CVS.
Yep.
And there was another. What's the other big one in the States?
Like pharmacy?
I'm blanking on pharmacy. Yeah, the other big pharmacy.
I think it was just Walgreens and CVS.
This is Walgreens and CVS.
Yeah.
But there's another one that she wants to go meet with them. Like she's trying to, like, she puts the two of them against each other in that episode.
It was Walgreens
and then she's going to go
CVS.
Yeah, but she's going to go to Boston to meet somebody else. I'm just trying to think.
I thought it was
who she was going to go talk to.
I feel like
I think
it could be more. Yeah.
But yeah, great show. I literally have 2 episodes of it left, and I think Amanda Seyfried is doing a fantastic job. But I also hate her guts in this show so much, and I think that's what's really interesting with a show like this, where you have a character like with her character and Naveen Andrews, who plays Sunny Balwani, who they are just terrible people. They are absolutely horrible people, and you don't root for them in the show. You want to see everything blow up in their face. And it's an interesting dynamic I have with the show, because I'm like, okay, I'm enjoying the show, but I also want the worst things to happen to the main characters of it. And it reminds me a lot of when I Care a Lot came out last year with Rosamund Pike, who, she does a great performance. She plays such an evil character so great, but you also don't root for them. And it's an interesting dynamic when you're not rooting for the main character of your show. So I think it's an interesting perspective to have on a show.
See, it's interesting you mentioned that, because, like, yes, you're right. I was never rooting for these characters, but in the beginning of the show, I especially hated William H. Macy's megamind-looking Richard Fuse.
Yes, oh my God.
Hated his guts. And then right around the midway point of the show, I was like, man, I hope you, absolutely stomp on them. And I was just enjoying his journey of trying to take them down. Granted, still never liked his character, but I was just behind him. I was like, I'll fund this if you want me to.
Anthony, what do you think? What do you like so far about the Dropout? Or you finish it? How did you like the Dropout?
Yeah, I like the story. I like the acting. The thing with the Dropout, or the thing with any type of technology type of series where they focus on the rise and fall, because there was the Wii show
We Crashed
as well with the Recrash.
Yeah, We Crashed.
Very similar. I always find it so fresh, and it's like I wish they just waited before they told the story, because I don't even think she's been sentenced yet, or there's no punishment really given yet to her.
They're still going through the trials.
They're still going through the trials. So I'm always hesitant to watch shows where it's still happening, because there's still more to the story. I like to wait 40 years and then
God.
This is the story. But yeah, man, this is a character, and I said it before, that anyone who lives and breathes a technology company like this, who lives in Palo Alto or Cupertino,
Silicon Valley area,
they're all they have some sort of issues, like empathy issues, and they feel no emotion. They have these dead eyes. You can see it in Zuckerberg, and you can see it in Bezos and Elon Musk. They don't have any sense of caring,
morality,
power. And that's where you see Amanda Seyfried, who starts off sweet. She's a little different, I would say, but
a little eccentric, a little bit of a cornball.
Yeah, her goal is to really create. She had this idea, and she really wanted to go through with it. And I think if it didn't go this route, that idea could have been something that happened, that the blood testing. But it's like the power got to her head, and she turns into this character you just hate, you just dislike. Even the ending of that show, where the company is dissolved, she has this dog, and she's telling her lawyer, the lawyer that was part of the company at the time, she's like, "Oh yeah, I have this dog. I have my new boyfriend." And she's like, "I don't have a job. You understand? The people that work here don't have a job." And again, it's that cult mentality, and we were talking about in the previous in Severance, where these people live and breathe Theranos. It's do or die. And even Sunny, who's just fuck everyone, it was just Theranos, and they're just clapping, and it's just a happy hour all the time. But
it's so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable.
And that nothing is leading to anything. The people start questioning, the engineers start questioning them, the people who are in charge of creating the technology. You can see it in their eyes. They're like, we're doing something bad, and we need to,
or we can't even do it. We can't even do it. And Stephen Fry, he's so good in this show. Yeah, he's so good in the show. Yeah.
And I don't know.
Also,
I don't know how true.
We all.
I don't know how true the story is. It is a dramatization, so I don't know if things are elaborated or what. But there are parts of this show that you just want to go into if you could go back in time and find this person, you just strangled them.
Yeah. It's one of those. It's that feeling of especially with the security guards at the Theranos office, the fact that she would lie to everybody, constantly lying all the time.
Yeah.
So the two companies that she put against each other was Walgreens and Safeway, and then those are the ones who were at the Theranos headquarters, kind of she turned us down. Well, she turned us down, and she was going to go to Boston to meet with CVS.
Safeway is like a grocery store.
Yeah, so because she wanted to have the whatever it's called, the wellness rooms, and then CVS was just an hour outside of Boston. But yeah, it's so frustrating, because you see that, and you see this culture of, I will do whatever it takes for this company, blah 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 blah, and it's really upsetting, and it really makes you kind of the same way you guys are saying with Severance, where you just feel like they're giving their whole life to this company who is literally frauding everyone they work with.
I would have said that the show probably could. I think it was 8 episodes. The show,
yes,
maybe 6 episodes. I think it went a little too long. And I found Amanda Seyfried, she would do really well, but then at times her acting, she almost was overacting. But other than that, it's a good series. I think it's just they should have just waited. Everyone needs something right now. I need to know about her story. I think when go ahead. the documentary that came out before this did such a good job. I think it's on HBO. Did such a good job telling that story. The dramatization, I wish could have waited another 10, 15 years.
I think a lot of the times when it comes to these kind of shows, the reason why they're pumped out so quick is A, well, it's fresh, and B, it kind of brings light to the scenario that's still occurring at the moment. So for people who didn't know much about the Dropout or what was happening with Theranos, now they can feel a bit more invested. Whereas the documentary might not have, lit the world on fire. I feel like more people have talked about the Dropout than the actual documentary. So it is bringing that attention to what is exactly happening right now. And then you can kind of stay invested and then figure out more. And that way, we're not waiting years to get another female CEO. Because the one thing that has sucked about this, Theranos experience is it has now made it difficult for women, especially in Silicon Valley, to get to the top and get that fame and notoriety that they rightfully deserve, all because Elizabeth Holmes really screwed the pooch on everything.
Yeah, she left just so much death and destruction in her wake, right? And I think what Anthony said earlier too. I think Silicon Valley, there's also like a bit of a bubble of the reality that they live in. So everything that that Elizabeth Holmes wanted to pull off, it's like a perfect world scenario. And I think her intentions, what she wanted to do was a good thing. Like if she was able to pull off what she was able to pull off, that would have been amazing. But she couldn't, and she lied about it, and she was 10 years away from that. And that's so damaging. And there's some really dark moments of the show where you just really struggle. Like, man, like I hate you and I hate everyone at this company, and it's an unfortunate but it's a testament to the show that's able to get you to feel that way, right? Any final thoughts on the Dropout before we move on? We're good to go. The Dropout is on Disney Plus or on on Hulu in the States if you are looking to watch it. So definitely check it out. Anthony, a big show that you've been watching and that you're a big fan of is Dopesick. And I know you have a bit of a prerequisite recommendation for people before they dive into Dopesick. So tell us what Dopesick's all about, and then tell our listeners the best way to go about watching it.
Yeah, so Dopesick's the story about the creation of OxyContin and how it became the drug of choice in America, like the most legal drug that you can get, and also become addicted to it, and then lead to other types of drugs. So it tells you the story of the Purdue, the Sackler family and Purdue Pharma, how they created this opioid that basically they were able to get one of the government officials, FDA officials, to put a label saying that it's not addictive, pretty much, and how this pill can be used for all types of pain relief, like headaches, broken bones, any type of pain relief. That their whole idea was to alleviate pain, no matter what type of pain it was, even pain where you could live with it. I had wisdom teeth taken out, and you take Tylenol 3, right? No, they'll give you OxyContin. And what happened was people would become addicted on Oxy, and that would become the gateway drug to other drugs. And these poor people who've been taking it, they would take certain milligrams. They would start off at 10, 20, 30. They would go to 160. Things that no doctor would prescribe, and they were prescribing because on the label they got someone to approve the label to say it's non-addictive. And that's where this really, the base bones of the show is that one label. That guy who put that label on it spearheaded the worst drug epidemic anyone has ever seen, especially in the States and even in Canada. It stars Michael Keaton, Rosario Dawson, Marco Stuhlberg. Who else? I'm just pulling up the list here. Caitlin Dever, and what's his
things
name?
in it too from who's going to be Adam Warlock. Yeah, Will Poulter. Yeah,
and each one of these characters tells a different side of the story. So Michael Keaton's character, he's a doctor who lives in the Rust Belt region where there's a lot of miners who go through pain, and he was kind of contacted by William Poulter, who plays a sales representative for Purdue Pharma. And then, he's like, yeah, take this OxyContin. It's not addictive. You could give it to your patients. People, they'll love it. And, and this goes from there. Peter Sarsgaard, he plays a lawyer who starts to investigate the Sackler family and tries to get them to admit that it's addictive and try to get this drug off the shelves. Rosario Dawson plays a DEA agent who's doing the same thing. So all these different stories are connected and interconnected, and it goes through, I want to say, the span of from 2000 to 2005, probably 2006 time. So about 6 years, and just the ins and outs of how this family, this Sackler family, was able to get away with continuously pumping out these drugs when they knew it was addictive and harmful. Really, really good story. Really, really good show. I would for a prerequisite, I would say watch Crime of the Century, which is an HBO doc on this, just to learn more about how opioids work, how OxyContin works, how it started, how it's ending. It still hasn't ended. That's the wild part.
It's still going on right now.
Again, this is very similar to Dropout, where they have not, issued, or I think they've basically told that the Sackler family they're not criminally, what is this word? Criminally
responsible?
At fault. At fault, which is wild, but really, really dope show.
We watched another documentary last year that it dealt with. Didn't it deal with opioids as well too? Crack. That was the one, the Netflix one, right?
Yeah.
Crack cocaine. Yeah.
I get the all the time too. I know.
Yeah, no, but it's one of those things that when you're watching these shows, and I've watched the first few episodes I've watched the first 3 episodes of Dopesick, and you're watching it, and it just kills you when you see this, and you're like, this is all man-made problems, and this is all coming from the government level of things, and it's like this is allowed to happen, and it's just so frustrating as a human being watching it, and you're like, this is this downfall that's happening. This has generational effects on people. This just affects so much, not just of you, of everything, of your whole community could be destroyed by this. And we've seen that throughout history, right?
Yeah, it's just really upsetting when you have, you have corruption that's taking place. And I know that sounds so silly, but it's just corruption. That's it, within the government, that allowed something like this to happen. People being bought out just to make silly decisions that ended up causing people's lives. Like, there's no integrity left anymore with people, right? Like, there's no one that's going to turn something down. And at that point, you're just making these horrible decisions without actually putting in the time and effort that it takes. And now so many people have lost their lives thanks to your selfishness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, they don't get charged. Like, Richard Sackler and Elizabeth Holmes, they knew what they were doing. Then they getting off scot-free, no charges, no jail time, even though a lot of people, especially for Richard Sackler, died under his watch. He told doctors that this drug was not addictive, and doctors gave it to these to their patients, and they become addicted to the point where they couldn't even get off it. They had to go on methadone to get off it, and they would go on to other drugs because the high wasn't enough for them anymore. They would have to go to heroin, and then they would just die of overdoses. And this wasn't just said a certain, like with crack cocaine, it was really focused on LA, New York. This was a worldwide thing. OxyContin became a very popular drug. Kids were taking it to schools. Anyone who had pain, they were taking it, and they couldn't get off of it, which is, it's wild. This is a story I didn't know about. I heard, you would hear like, oh, I got my Vicodin. You would hear that in the 90s. Oh, I got my Vicodin or my Oxy. I take my Oxy. But then to learn that this actually was the worst drug pandemic ever in the United States, it just says a lot about how much, the government or the people can hide a story like this until now. Yeah. And this is why this documentary or this show, sorry, which was, I watched off a documentary. I would say it had enough time to breathe before it was told. And I think that's what I like about Dopesick, even though it's still not done. But everyone's great in it. Michael Keaton's fantastic.
He's phenomenal.
He does a fantastic job.
So you definitely recommend checking it out?
I would definitely recommend it. I would say the ending is anticlimactic because I think people were like, just the lead ups, like, they're going to take them down. They're going to just, they're going to have that paragraph at the end that says,
we won. The good guys
Richard
won.
Sackler
the bad guys
was
lost.
Sentenced to 70 years in prison. Yeah, you don't get that. And that's where
real life, man.
That's real life. For sure.
There's another show that you guys are watching right now. I haven't caught up to you guys, but you're watching Barry season 3. And how many episodes have you guys watched? And are we allowed talking about them yet? Or I think you're just able to give an overall feeling about what you've watched so far.
We can give an overall feeling, yeah.
Yeah, I think
so. You guys are big Barry season 3 fans.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
All right, thanks so much for that. Moving on to our next show.
but I'm loving it. When Barry took the amount of time that it needed to come back, I was afraid that they weren't going to hit it. But they took the right amount of time because they came back to tell a story, and they came back to tell a story a different way that they haven't yet. This show has matured. It has fully found its footing. Not that the season 1 and season 2 didn't have a footing. But season 1, season 2, toyed around a lot. Whereas this season right now, it's so well thought out. It feels like, I'm okay with shows now taking this long to come back out for another season if they're going to come back this strong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's
where are you with it, Anthony?
It's fantastic. It's probably my favorite show right now that I haven't finished. That I've caught up. I've based on the episodes that were given to us. It's each episode's like a banger, and I think a lot of people keep forgetting that. Or maybe I forget that Barry's not a great guy. He's not a good guy.
Yeah.
And I keep forgetting that. I'm like, because he has such a lovable face. He's Will Hader. He's this assassin. His friend, NoHo Hank. He's always there. Like, there's this comedy aspect to it, but
they're likable characters, even though they do bad things, right?
Barry's not a great guy. And especially in episode 1, where he yells at Sally, like, not just yells, like to the point where he goes
like he degrades her.
It was like rage. Abuse, yeah,
it was abuse with words and like presence. It's scary, and I think Bill Hader does a fantastic job of playing a serious actor who's also supposed to be funny. But yeah, like if you're a fan of Barry, it's probably the best season. Because each episode, boom, 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 boom. I don't even know how they got this out during COVID too.
Yeah, it's.
You're also watching Tokyo. You're also watching Tokyo Vice, Anthony, right?
Yeah, I actually just finished the last episode yesterday.
Nice. What'd you think of it?
It's a good show. Like, it's a drama that's based out of Tokyo. Follows this reporter who's investigating the Yakuza, and it's just his life, and it's loosely based on. Shay's just lifting up his pinky finger, because usually the Yakuza will cut their pinky finger. I think it's part of their tradition. It's loosely based on Jake Adelstein, who was a reporter during that time. So a lot of these stories, yes, they're based on Yakuza, but the overall Tokyo Vice story is loosely based on it. It's not like this is exactly what happened to him.
Right.
But yeah, like it does a great combination of Japanese and English writing. It all takes place in Japan, which is very authentic. The story is interesting. It's a little weird in the way it's taught and shown, but I think that's just very similar to how I think they were trying to make it for both audiences, Japanese as well as an American audience.
Right.
But Ken Watanabe is he's like top 10 actor right now. He's just so good. He plays this detective who's investigating the Yakuza and who's trying to take down certain gangs within the Yakuza. And he works with Ansel Elgort's character, who's Jake. And he's a reporter, and he would like kind of work together on trying to bring them down. It's a good story. I think people will like it. It's gripped. I think right now it's 985 or 89 on Rotten Tomatoes. I believe the second season will come. The one thing,
and it's created by Michael Mann as well too, right?
It's not Mike. I don't think Michael Mann is executive produced. He directed the pilot episode, which feels like a Michael Mann. Like it feels like, oh, that's very Michael Mann. Right. The rest of the show, and I think that's where I felt it was a little weird. It didn't feel like that anymore. Mm-hmm. Like the first episode was very Michael Mann. It starts off as a flash forward, and the ending of the show doesn't end with the flash forward. It doesn't even mention it. So it's like there's more story to get to that point. Yes.
Oh, good. That's good.
Which is weird.
Because that's episode 1. Like that's what I liked about it. That I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like we're starting off at the end. And then again, like it didn't grip me like I wanted it to. And then episode 2 didn't really have me either. So I'm like, okay, I'll come back to this another day. But hearing that it doesn't go referencing back to the beginning is kind of like, well, what are we watching? What are we waiting for?
That's the thing. Like I hope there's another season coming because that scene is super important because it's probably like the most tense scene. Takes out the cigarette. He's like, let me think about your offer. And the whole, like the two characters are there, Ken Watanabe's character and Ansel's character. But I liked it. I like Japan. You know, like I like.
I
wasn't expecting you to say, I liked it. I like Japan.
I like the Yakuza.
That's good.
It's good because you never see shows that take place in Japan, right? Like it's usually a movie or like maybe
you gotta watch Terrace House then, man.
Sorry?
You got to watch Terrace House.
Anthony will like Terrace House for sure.
Yeah. Is it in Japan?
Oh, yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I might not be sure.
It's not a show. It's not a show about the Yakuza, though. I just want to be forward. It's not a Yakuza show.
It's about Japan. Yeah.
Why are you smiling when you say Japan?
Do you want me to be sad when I say Japan? Japan.
But I don't think he knows what's Terrace House about.
Yeah, tell me more about it.
It's not like reality TV, but it's kind of like reality TV.
Yeah.
It's like a nice.
That takes place in Japan.
It's like a very nice reality TV.
I was going to say it's like the real world Japan.
But it's like real world exactly. There's no drama like catty drama, but there's like it's very interesting and it's a good way to see Japan.
Okay, but I like it like this too.
But there could be a murder. There could be a murder.
Imagine he watches Terrace House the whole time waiting. He's like, which one of these people are going to get murdered? And
I love all these people. I hope none of them die.
The last show I want to talk about today quickly, Anthony, I don't know if you've caught up yet. Moon Knight episode 5. So if you want to hear our thoughts on the first 4 episodes of Moon Knight, we have a dedicated review episode for that. We have now caught up to what else of what we haven't seen, and this is, I think, far and away the best episode of the show. And I think Moon Knight, it's continuing its trend now with episode 4 and episode 5 being the strongest episodes of the series. I think that we only have 1 episode left. It's a little worrisome because we are now at a point where it's like, okay, we have to wrap up this story, and most likely it's going to end up on a big kind of showdown in Egypt somehow. But what I love so much about this episode, and I think this is one of the strongest episodes of an MCU TV show, is Oscar Isaac's performance in this. And Oscar Isaac is a world-class actor, and the fact that you see him playing, Mark, and you see him play Steven, and then you're introduced to the younger version of himself in this, and the abuse that he went through as a child with his brother and his mom, and just seeing all of that play out, it reminded me a lot of also the penultimate episode of WandaVision last year, where literally the episode before the finale, it's like we're going on a history of everything that this character has gone through. And you're seeing kind of why they are the way that they are and how they came to where they are in life. And Oscar Isaac is just incredible in this episode. He is such a phenomenal actor. And I'm really excited to see where the show ends off, and I'm really excited to see where Moon Knight pops up next, because I would love to see more of just like Moon Knight kicking ass, because this show, it's very different, I think, from what a lot of people expected. I think it's different from what we expected, where it was kind of advertised as this is going to be almost like a Batman Daredevil type character, and he is, but this is a lot more of a psychological drama, this show, more than anything. And especially where this episode ends off, I was like, wow, I was surprisingly moved and emotional by the end of it. And I just want to see how they're going to be able to wrap it up. I hope it lands. The MCU shows haven't had the best history with delivering the strongest finales, so I'm really curious to see how this all wraps up. But Anthony, you have not seen it yet, right? The episode 5?
I have seen it, yes.
Oh, you have seen it. I apologize. So what were your guys' thoughts on this episode?
Shay, go ahead, because I feel like I've been talking a bit.
Yeah, it's no secret about how we felt so far about Moon Knight, but this episode I enjoyed because it was a master class of acting. It was purely just Oscar Isaac giving his best, and Steven, who wasn't really a character that was on my radar or someone that I was interested in at all. He pulled on my heartstrings in this episode. I actually kind of cared about him. I was more invested in him. But the problem with the show still is the story isn't moving forward. I didn't feel like I still cared enough about the story as an episode on its own, and as a show of pure acting chops that Oscar Isaac, who we know has this acting, but really just gives it all. It was phenomenal. But that doesn't take away still from the fact that it doesn't do much for the show. It doesn't make me go, okay, I'm going to come back and revisit it. It's more so along the lines of, yeah, man, Oscar Isaac is a phenomenal actor, but I already knew that. And I kind of wish that there was more involved to this. I wish there was more of a story to tell that I'm still not getting yet. But just like you mentioned, Daniel, I really hope that this next episode gives us a strong finale. Obviously, it doesn't have to wrap things up, because there's the potential of another season, or to take place in another movie, because that's how the MCU is. It's just a spider web that's going kind of everywhere. But at least give a good send off to something. Make the ending of this season feel impactful in the way.
Yeah. So when the next time that we see them, it means something more. Anthony, what do you think of this episode?
I thought Oscar Isaac's performance was fantastic. The whole, the personality changes, the jumping back and forth, the abuse, the struggle, and you really feel for Mark Spector, and you feel for Steve. Is it Steven?
Steven, yeah.
Yeah, Steven. But I feel like it's a little too late now that we have one more episode to go, and everything has to wrap up in that episode. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't wrap up. Maybe it'll be like, oh, but there's season 2 around the corner. But I just don't think there'll be enough time to wrap up everything that we got beforehand. Right. There are parts of the story that I found it was hard to believe. I know they written it such a way, but it was just so hard to believe that his mother was so mad at him at forever. Like, it was just, I was mad at you forever after the death. So it was hard to like really comprehend. Like, I don't feel like that's true, and I was just second guessing the story in that sense. I don't know if you guys felt that. It was just, she was
no, I think like, we've seen that in movies and shows before too, where like there's always that survivor guilt for him, but also that guilt of him letting his brother die. But there's also that the fact that we're seeing this through Mark's eyes. Like, he is not a reliable narrator in this show, right? So we could also be seeing him seeing the worst of his mom. That's why Steven his personality with Steven is him, that he loves his mom. There's nothing wrong, and they have a great relationship. So it could just be how I guess his reality, or his mind's, seeing her, remembering her, right?
Yeah. But overall, I would say it was the episode that kind of engaged with me the most, because it was the most interesting.
Yes.
Everything leading up to that episode is still, I'm not on the same page as a lot of people are when it comes to Moon Knight. I feel like, yes, it is a psychological thriller, but we've had more impactful psychological thrillers in the past that could have really connected with us.
Right.
But yeah, I would love to see a David Fincher direct a psychological Marvel
with Moon Knight. We'll see maybe one day. But yeah, I mean, yeah, one episode left to go. We will recap it on next week's episode of the Movie Podcast. But that was pretty good. As you know, this is our first television extravaganza. I just want to recap the shows that we spoke about and where you could watch them. Severance, you could watch the entire season now on Apple TV Plus. The Dropout and Dopesick are both available on Disney Plus here in Canada and on Hulu in the States. Tokyo Vice is on HBO and HBO Max, so you'll be able to check that out. Moon Knight, of course, is on Disney Plus, and Barry Season 3 is on HBO and HBO Max, so you could check those all out. Thank you so much for listening to our television extravaganza today. Don't forget, you can catch a brand new episode of the Movie Podcast every single Monday. You won't want to miss Monday's episode because we are recapping everything that happened at CinemaCon, and there was a lot. You could also follow us at The Movie Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd. And don't forget to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Discord, and write into the show at hello@TheMoviePodcast.ca. Make sure you also check us out on YouTube.com/TheMoviePodcast. We have everything that you're listening to. We have a visual version for you to check out as well too, and it also helps grow our show and get us in front of a lot more audiences. So please subscribe to us on YouTube. Anthony's doing some great work there, and you can check out our show notes for all of those links and more. And of course, on Tuesday we have our spoiler-free review of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and we have a lot more fun stuff planned for the week, so you won't want to miss it. That was this time with the Movie Podcast, and we'll see you next.